As they get it going, as introduced, I'm Kellington Kutuku from Amazon Web Services. When people see AWS, some of them think that it is American Welding Society, but no. Amazon Web Services. Let's see if this works. Okay. Good. Okay, there. So definitely pleased, and it's an honor and pleasure to be here with you today, at the KENIC Summit and Awards. A pleasure to be here and talking to the theme around bridging the digital divide and unleashing the power of partnerships. When I received this, the invite to speak here today, as well as looking at what was put as the theme, I wasn't sure from an Amazon perspective what to talk to. So I'll try and wing it a little bit, and by the time I'm done, maybe give me a thumbs up or thumbs down if I was able to connect to the theme, okay? So our mission at Amazon is to be the Earth's most customer-centric organization. And when you look at that, we do not talk to or mention computing, retail. You know Amazon for very many things. Having been the people who started online retail, we are now in what's it called, retail shops. We are in pharmacy, healthcare, and most recently, one of our latest additions is, for those who did not know or think about Starlink, we have our own project Kuiper, which should be hitting Kenya sometime 2020. I can't mention the dates, but should be seeing it closer to you. And the reason I share this is that everything that we do is consistent with our mission to put the customer first. So connecting that back to the theme of today. So why are we bridging the digital divide? Are we bridging the digital divide because it's fun? Tech is fun? Right now we are talking about Gen AI, and the gentleman from wakili.org had a very good session when he talked about what they're doing with that platform. Gen AI is hot now. So what was hotter before? About 6 months ago. What was there? Do you remember? Anyone remember? Something, there was another AI, right? Who remembers Metaverse? So what did we build on Metaverse? It was cool, right? But the key thing around all of these things, and when you don't focus on the customer, you end up really getting onto a train that is a technology fad. So you're always chasing the next high in terms of what's that technology. And that's why our mission, and what I'll keep talking to, is consistency in terms of how do we ensure we focus on our customers. The team that I represent from Amazon Web Services, basically we are in the cloud computing space and have been the leaders in that space for the last 13 years. Do not worry, that is the last sales slide you'll actually see from me today. I'm not here to sell to you today. I'm here to sell to you a different mindset. And why this slide is important is actually in collaboration and thanks to the people in the room, because what is cloud computing? It's basically accessing computing services over the internet. And who are those people who make the internet available? It's really the people in the room. So for our customers to actually be able to enjoy the services that we give, we have to ensure that we are consistently working and collaborating with yourselves. So the digital divide, and why does this thing keep essentially growing? So it's because we are seeing a rapid change across the world, and there is continuous change being driven by things like consumer expectation, disruptive technologies. All of these things are happening, and the digital divide keeps getting wider. The lady from She Goes Tech spoke about it. A lot of people do not have access to technology, right? So those are some of the things that are making this digital divide continue to grow. So today, I'm going to talk to you about culture of innovation and really trying to think through how do we bridge that gap. And it's really going to be through innovation and the mindset around thinking about always being organized correctly, using the right tools and capabilities, and holding ourselves accountable. And most importantly, celebrating our people and ensuring we give them the right set of tools to do what they need to do. Hope we are together, right? Now, our CEO, Jeff Bezos, is famous for writing letters to our shareholders. And this is an excerpt from one of his letters around 2016. And I will focus on where it's highlighted. So he says, customers are always beautifully and wonderfully dissatisfied. Is that true? Is that true? Or we're always happy? Customers are always delighted. Rarely do we give 5 stars, right? And the reason, when you start to thinking about our customers are always beautifully dissatisfied, you start to think about how do I innovate If it's bridging that gap, how do I innovate? How do I help them to catch up with the rest? So when you have that type of mindset, you'll always be thinking and putting your customer at the forefront. So how we innovate and drive for innovation at Amazon, we have 4 pillars. And those 4 pillars are culture, and you've heard that culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? We then focus on architecture, we have mechanisms, and then we have the organization. Typically this session, I deliver it for about 2 hours. I've been told I have 20 minutes. If I ever gone, I'll try and see if I can deliver this and don't miss out on anything from the same. From an organization perspective, we believe in 16 leadership principles. And unless you know a better one, please let us know and we will adapt. When I joined the organization, there were 14, but now there are 16. And I'll call out a couple of them. Number 1 is bias for action. Now, the MBA speakers will talk about business is done at the speed of thought, right? So if we do not have a bias for action, it will mean that you are sitting in an opportunity you're in a position to miss out on opportunities. Now, it is said that you need 70% of information to make 90% of the decisions you will in any given day and or task. But what do we typically do? We want to be sure or have 100% of information before we can make decision. Does that seem like having bias for action, or we are waiting to be sure before we can make the decision? And when you look at the developed world, people tend to take a lot of risks, and they're calculated risk because they're not essentially waiting to have all the answers in the room for them to be able to take an action. So for us, we look at it in terms of bias for action. And we've categorized it into 2 things. We have 2 types of decisions you will make from the time you woke up to the time you go to bed. You'll have a 1-door decision or a 2-way door decision. A 2-way decision is basically a decision, the moment I make it, retracting from that decision or direction is very easy. There is minimal impact when it comes to business reputation and or cost. So with that, it's very quick and easy to do. And for our businesses and anything that we do, it is important to empower our people to know what are those types of decisions they can quickly make rather than waiting for the leadership team to tell them make the decision. Your 1-way door decision on the other side is when I walk through that door, coming back is not very easy. So I need to make sure that I have the right level of information to make it. So when I said that those are the 2 types of decisions that you have, that's typically right. Huh? So are we okay with 70% of the information? Something to think about. The other one that I'll talk to is customer obsession, which is what I talk to that really embodies what we think about and every solution that we build. Who remembers the Kindle when it first started? Who saw it? Amazon Kindle. Or we are in Gen Z territory, no one has seen that. Eh? So the first Kindle device actually had no touch, had a scroller for a button, but it did one thing. When we released that particular product, the idea was an avid reader should be able to download a book in 10 seconds anywhere in the world. So we knew we did not need to have a fancy-looking device that has touch, nicely to touch. Actually, if I had the picture, I would show you. But we knew that if we put the customer in mind and we are building for a durable need, the customers would stick to us. And the customers and the avid readers have stuck with Kindle till now. And I'm sure some of your kids use the Fire devices that have been part of that. Okay, sorry. The other thing around our culture of being customer obsessed is we always work backwards. And we have mechanisms that we use in terms of helping us work backwards. Number 1, we do what are called PR FAQs, press release and FAQs before we write a single line of code or start development on any product. We normally ask ourselves, what would be the newspaper article or news headline on Nation on that day when we release that product? What will we say? Will we say Gen AI customer service, or will we say we are solving a certain problem, right? So we start by thinking around what's going to be the press release on that particular day. And then we work backwards to something else. We ask ourselves, if we release this product, what will a regular user ask about the product? You know, when you buy medicine, there's always that slip inside there that normally tells you the benefits and what all of those things, right? So we write that before we start building any product. And those questions that then come up that we answer as frequently asked questions are then the features for whatever product that we put in. And we go a little bit further and we even draw visuals for what that product would actually look like. And what would an announcement or a launch of that particular product be. So that's how we think about it before we write a single line of code. And that's when I mentioned earlier on and asked the question around, what's the latest technology? What's the fad? Because if we start and focus on the technology, we will miss out on what is the need we are trying to sort out. So think about it in your organization and even the services that you provide. Do you start with the technology or do you start with the customer in mind? In terms of how we are architected in a way we think about how do we accelerate our innovation and how do we allow for fast-paced innovation? Do we allow our people to fail? Like I said earlier on, I focus in selling to public sector, and it's normally a laugh in the room when I tell them, your organizations need to allow you to fail and fail fast. Would we allow our government to fail and fail fast when it comes to delivering services? I'm sure it would be very tough on them, but it's really a culture and a mindset we need to think about. Whereas rather than trying to, when you think about our traditional way of delivering solutions is, we do project planning for a year, we then start developing for another year. By the time we are delivering the product, the need was already passed by time. So we need to be able to allow for rapid experimentation and prototyping. Key thing around low cost and being able to do iterations quickly. No need for you to essentially do a fully fledged product before you can actually be able to release it to the market. And that's where nowadays you hear the whole idea around minimum lovable product. Now, in terms of accelerating innovation and invention, if today if you do something and you know the outcome, is that an invention or innovation? Is it possible? Are you experimenting? So our CEO is famous for saying that failure and invention are inseparable twins. For any business and or product that you'll always try to do, you need to be ready to understand that the possibilities of failure are very high. And then you need to be organized in a way and a manner that allows or cushions that particular invention or experimentation. So, and that's why you'll see the space that we are in from a cloud computing perspective allows organizations to do that. And on that point is where when you come back to the theme around bridging the digital divide, cloud computing has essentially come to help in terms of helping people bring technology closer. So today for the big organizations in the US and a small startup in Nairobi, through cloud, be it from ourselves or the competitors in the market, you actually have access to the same level of technology. I would ask Naftal today, what you're doing on AI, you're playing on the same playing field as the likes of Netflix, as in you're running on the same platform as them. But when you think about the financial muscle, it's day and night, right? But technology essentially has come to help in terms of allowing for people to try, to then be able to drive a success. Now, this is a quote not from AWS. I said no selling. You will not see me saying anything AWS by that today. So this is from the CEO of one of the data center providers out there, and they were talking to friends don't let friends build data centers. Similarly, you do not produce your own power today. Though solar is there, right? But you don't produce your own power. You leverage the likes and the people who have the expertise of the same, the likes of Kenya Power to give you power. So for data centers, this guy was saying, friends don't let friends build data centers. You let us support you in terms of that particular journey. And this is what cloud helps you to do. So it removes constraints around things like standards, speed, quality. I think someone earlier on mentioned things like security and all of that, those conversations around ethical use of AI. When we build these products, we actually try and ensure that we've covered a lot of these bases. For example, a startup today trying to build an ISO certified solution, working with us, you already start with some inherent certifications done for the same. So it helps in terms of lowering that bar for entry for any organization. Now, I said I would talk to mechanisms, culture, architecture, and then organization. And my last part about this conversation is really going to be around people. So at Amazon, we say we hire builders and we let them build. This phrase has actually been used differently when someone has said, we hire smart people for them to tell us what to do, not for us to tell them what to do, right? But what do we do in most organizations? We hire smart people and then tell them, move this paper from there to here. Don't come up with an innovative way in terms of how to do that. And we have certain principles in terms of the same. So this is a quote from the CEO, one of the leadership people at Netflix, when people told them, we cannot be as successful as you because we can't hire the brilliant people you have, or we cannot even pay them as much as you do. And what was the statement? He said, we actually got these people from you and got out of their way. So, to Kennick and the people in the room, so to bridge the digital divide, let's give people the space to innovate. Otherwise, we'll consistently continue to chase our own shadows. Oops, sorry. Moving faster than, or it telling me to finish. Now, from an organization perspective, we have this theory of 2 pizza teams. We do not have any team in the organization that cannot be fed by 2 large pizzas. So in Kenya, for Terrific Tuesday, if a team cannot be fed by those 2 pizzas, we essentially deprecate that or divide those teams. And the reason for that is this. The more people you have in a team, the more complicated it is to have in terms of consensus or even agreeing on ideas. So you'll always be in meeting after meeting trying to find a consensus. But if you have smaller teams, you have the right level of autonomy you need to essentially to be able to move faster. So remember, what I'm speaking to is the culture of innovation. So if we need to do consensus across the entire organization for us to move, then we will essentially never move. It moves. Now, this talks to, if it was a little bit clearer, wow. So these are things like do's and don'ts when it comes to your journey of transformation. Some of the things captured in this, and probably you might not be able to see them clearly, is a lot of leaders, when they're trying to lead their organizations in terms of innovation and or digital transformation, they listen to people like me who will say, don't have big teams, or you need to have this. And I know in this age, each organization has a digital transformation officer, right? We do? Do we? Do we have transformation officers? Or we don't? But you'll find what organizations will do, they will rename titles in organizations just to show that they're being forward-thinking or are thinking about digital transformation. Yet what that person is doing does not resonate to that. The other thing it talks about, and I was talking to the part around don't rebrand roles and processes. You need to instigate genuine outcome-focused changes. Don't rename titles for the sake of renaming them. Another one to call out is don't photocopy someone else's culture. Culture needs to be inherent in your organization, in your practices, and what it is that you do. And feel free to experiment. Otherwise, doing things, they say madness is doing the same thing over time expecting different results. That's what that speaks to. And then the other one is overplan, overestimate the pace of change. This one is where project managers will tell you, measure 10 times, cut once, right? But we flip it on the other side and we say, be stubborn about the vision. The vision needs to be stubborn. You need to be saying, this building is going to be 30 floors in a month. But then be flexible on the execution. But if you're flexible on the vision, what will that mean? You're not going to lead much change because there's a temptation to always go for the shorter goal, whereas you're chasing the bigger goal to say, this is where you wanted to get, and then you pack the larger vision. Now, if this was clearer, this is okay, it's not very clear. It would be great if you'd see my last slide. So, this slide, though not clear, I'll give the story in terms of what's happening on this particular slide. Don't know why it's not showing the previous one. So a lot of organizations have operations manuals, standard operating procedures, right? We do. And all of them are properly, well thought through documents that tell you the do's and don'ts. These are the processes of what and how we should actually do. So if this was visible, you'd actually see the link and you can go read the entire document online. But this was actually, when you read on the side, on the white side, you'll actually see these are the typical things you have in your organization. This is the process of getting a decision done. This is how we organize for meetings. This is how we do conferences, well thought through. This document was actually a document that was generated by a guy called David Williamson, who was actually a CIA agent. And the document was actually about how to sabotage organizations. And it said, if we keep people in continuous meetings, we will never achieve anything. So it's actually a very interesting story about this particular book, released in about 1944 as a declassified document by the CIA. And when you read it, it's very consistent with a lot of the practices we have in organizations today. And lastly, I'll leave with a very interesting quote, at least to me. Do you think communication is a key thing in organizations? We are told that. Communicate, communicate, communicate. How many people believe that? Show of hands. There's some energy. There was lunch. Communication is a good thing, right? On the contrary, communication is actually the sign of a dysfunctional organization. Because if we are working well together as a team, there are synergies that have been built within the organization. I do not need to keep telling you what I'm doing. But if we are over-communicating, it basically means we are a dysfunctional organization, right? So let's not keep people in meetings or copying people. You know where we keep doing CCs? Cover your whatever. Yes. So that's what I wanted to share with you, just as thoughts around when we think about bridging the digital divide and unleashing the power of partnerships. The culture and the mindset in terms of what we take up in terms of dealing with this challenge is going to be critical. We could have all the tools and the technology, but if the culture and the mindset is wrong, we will be singing this conversation for quite a while. So thank you very much. That was my short story. Thank you.
Thank you.